Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Canara Bank Q1 FY21 earnings conference call hosted by Antique Stock Broking. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference, please signal an operator by pressing star and then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Sohail Halai from Antique Stock Broking. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Inba. I'll welcome you all to Canara Bank's 1Q FY21 earnings call. Today with us, we have Mr. Prabhakar, MD and CEO, along with Executive Directors, Mr. Rao, Mr. Krishnan, Mr. Mukherjee, and Ms. Manikmika Lahai, and other senior members from the management team to give us insight about the performance of the bank and its future outlook. Without further delay, I would now hand over the call to Mr. Prabhakar for his opening remarks, post which we can open the floor for questions. Thank you, sir, for your time, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are happy to interact with you. And to start with, let me bring to your notice the highlights of Q1 FY21 performance. This time we have concentrated on low cost to deposit. Since we want to reduce our cost of deposit, our concentration was on low cost deposit, because of which our savings bank has grown by 14% YOY, and now it is at 2.53 trillion, and CASA has grown at 16%. The retail term deposits, it has grown at 13% YOY. Now it stands at 3.78 trillion. And term deposits, it has grown at 19.19%. This is regarding our CASA and low-cost deposits. And regarding credit growth, I can say that generally Q1, the credit growth will always be in the negative compared to March. However, this time, because of the proactive steps which we have taken, and also, of course, because of the moratorium also, it has helped a bit. But basically because of the aggressive decision which we have taken to concentrate on credit, this time there is, if not a significant growth, there is a decent growth in the credit. And domestic credit, it has grown by about 5%. And retail, it is almost flat, because in the last 2.5 months, I think there was not many queries about the retail advances. However, now we are observing a traction in that one. And coupled with this, liabilities and assets significant performance compared to other public sector banks. Now coming to the interest income, it has grown by 21% YOY, and now it stood at 6,096 crores, which is, I think, one of the attractive figures. And then coming to our operating profit, as you all seen, YOY there is a growth of 31.82%, and now it stands at 4,285 crores. Of course, net profit you have seen, after making all the provisions and other things, we could comfortably show a net profit of 406 crores. Now coming to the NPA performance, during this COVID time, what we did is, our officers who are working from home, we have given them a task of contacting all our NPA borrowers, and also where we have written off the accounts. Because of that, I think the results are visible. On a global level, the net NPAs, it has come down by 192 basis points YOY. Now it stands at 3.95%. Gross NPA, 144 basis points reduction is there YOY, and now it stands at 8.84%. Last time when I interacted with you people, I said that we want to have a comfortable provision coverage ratio. Compared to last year, there is an increase of 1,020 basis points as far as provision coverage ratio is concerned. Now it stands at 78.95%. Regarding the earnings, I would like to share some interesting information with you. Interest income, in spite of reduction in MCLR or RLLR and transmission of the interest rate, still we could show Q on Q a growth of interest income of about 2.44%, and YOY it is about 2%. In a non-interest income, YOY there is a growth of 10.56%. Regarding the fee-based income, this time in the last 3 months, we have concentrated a bit more on the fee-based income because credit growth is not there. So we could earn an fee-based income of 1,039 crores. If you see quarter-on-quarter growth, it is about 33.83%, and YOY it is about 8.07%. So total income we could maintain at the level of the previous quarter or previous year with a marginal increase of about 3%. However, the non-interest income, there is a significant growth. As I said, fee-based income has grown by 33%, quarter-on-quarter, and year-on-year it is about 8%. During the current quarter also, we could recover about 259 crores in return of accounts. Then coming to expenditure, here we have concentrated a bit more, and we could reduce the interest expenses on quarter by 4.64%, and YOY about 6%. If you go to the operating expenses, again quarter-on-quarter there is a reduction of 21.78%, and however year-on-year there is a growth of 6%. This is basically, if you see the staff cost, compared to last quarter we could reduce 20%, but year-on-year there is a growth of 12.48%. It is the market that the IBA has entered into an agreement with the Officers Association and the Award Staff Association. That is a bipartite settlement wherein they said that they will be increasing the wages by 15%. Our bank has already made 14%, including pension benefits, gratuity benefits, everything. And during the current quarter, once the agreement takes place, because agreement has not taken place, we'll be making another 1%. So there will not be any further hit on our balance sheet, because of which the staff cost increase of 12% is visible, whereas we have already made a provision of about 14%. Regarding the operating expenses, there is a reduction of 24% quarter-on-quarter, and compared to year-on-year, we could reduce by 4%. So as far as the expenses and income is concerned, we are very conscious of that one, and we are concentrating on that one, because of which the net interest income has gone up by 20% quarter-on-quarter basis, and year-on basis it is 21%. Operating profit quarter-on-quarter it has grown up by 77%, and year-on-year it is about 31.82%. A few other parameters I would like to highlight regarding the cost of deposit. Last time I said that we are shedding all the high cost deposits, and we did it. And now, in spite of reducing the interest rate because of the good customer service and the brand value and also the market conditions, our deposit growth, as I said, it is very attractive in savings bank as well as in term deposits also. Coming to cost of deposits, last year it was 5.56, we could reduce by 61 basis points to 4.95%. And whereas at the same time, because of good management of NPA and also recovering the interest income effectively and also passing on to the extent possible, our yield on advances has reduced by only 13 basis points, and we are maintaining an yield of advances of 8.09%, which is more than 8%, which is good in the industry, compared to 8.22% in the last year. NIM, last year it was 2.53%, and because of the effective management, there is an increase of 31 basis points. Now it has come to 2.84%. And if you remember in the last quarter when I had the meeting with you, I said that we will be maintaining the NIM about 2.8%. So going forward also we will be maintaining the NIM at about 2.8%. The recoveries, yes, everyone thought that because of COVID there will not be any recovery in the banks, but our team and our officers, they have utilized their time very effectively, and they have ensured that the recovery is affected. And if you see our slides regarding the recovery, in the last quarter, we made a cash recovery of about 1,440 crores, and upgradation was about 620 crores. Then addition, yes, we did about 1,422 crores addition, even though we have that liberty of postponing the things. But since in some accounts we have seen the weakness, other than the installments also, we thought that it is prudent to classify it as NPA now itself and start the action so that by March we may get good results from these accounts. Out of this 1,422 crores, about 900 crores relates to 3 accounts. 2 accounts are overseas account and 1 account is local account. And after this, net NPAs are standing at 24,355 crores. And another thing, as I said, even in written off accounts during this COVID time, we could recover about 259 crores. So the net NPA has gone down to 3.95% and gross is at 8.84%. Retail, you may be interested to know the NPS in retail. Our NPA is at 2.22% in retail. In agriculture, it is 6.91%. MSME, yes, it is 11%. And in corporate also 11%. Again, if you drill down the retail advances, as far as NPA is concerned, housing, we are maintaining the housing portfolio very well. The NPA is only 1.5%. Vehicle loans, yes, it is 2.44%. Education loan, it is about 3.3%, and then personal loans also 3.3%. So going forward, I think under retail, even for September quarter, our NPS will be under control. And in the last 1.5 months after the June 30th closing, again we have concentrated more on low cost deposit, the recovery of advances, and lending to good corporates and also retail advances. So with these opening remarks, I think I have covered most of the things. And you may be interested regarding the, other than financials, regarding the amalgamation. Amalgamation, last time, as I said, we have a well thought out plan and also an well executable plan, and we have implemented it. In terms of IT, last month 13th, we have rolled out the latest version branch, that is 11.8, and then subsequently, after testing the functions of the new software or the latest version of the software, another 4 branches we have added. And now almost we got confidence that now we can roll out on a larger scale in the coming months. As far as staff HR issues are concerned, we have completed all the transfers and postings of scale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and 1, 2, and 3 we are going to complete in the next week. That too, a minimum disturbance will be there. I am not going to transfer more people because of the COVID situation, which may disturb the working of the branches. So where genuine cases are there, where request transfers are there, and where as far CVC guidelines I have to transfer, only those things I will be implementing. Last time, as I said, we have already completed the transfer process, promotion process, and everyone was given the benefit of the elevation from 1st April 2020 onwards. The third vertical is regarding the structural amalgamation. Head office, now all the departments are realigned and they are in place. They are working now with full capacity. Circle offices we have amalgamated, and postings, transfers, all those things we have completed. We have 24 circle offices. ROs also, E-Syndicate and Canara Bank we have amalgamated. Now we have bring down the number to 176. Then branches, since the software is in place, will be very soon we will be in a position to complete it. Inspection offices, journal inspection offices, everything we have restructured and postings have also completed. And treasury, the most important thing that we have amalgamated on the day 1. This is regarding the Indian operations. If you think about the foreign operations, London, we have one branch of Syndicate and one branch of Canara. Those two branches were successfully amalgamated on 1st of April itself, and it is working as a single unit. HR we have taken care, IT we have taken care, amalgamation of the structures we have taken care. Now coming to the most important thing is our customers. We have ensured that there is no inconvenience to any of our customers, and 14 common products which we have promised and which have rolled out as on 1st April have successfully been implemented, and they are working successfully in all my 10,000 plus branches. Customer complaints, we are attending more vigorously and more promptly so that they get satisfaction and they do not feel the hangout of the mergers. Regarding the credit or the borrower accounts, we are a bit more cautious. We are giving comfort to all the good borrowers who are with e-Syndicate or with Canara Bank, so that they have full confidence on the amalgamated entity. So we have gone through the data, and after the amalgamation, as I said, there is a growth of 5% under the present conditions. That itself shows that we have taken care of all the customers, and also we are going in the direction of increasing the credit. Last quarter, I said that my guidance will be about 6 to 8% in credit growth. So as I said, we have already reached 5% during the lockdown period, and during the current quarter, again, my guidance will be 6 to 8%. That is the minimum which we are targeting. And in the last 1 month, the performance which we have analyzed, yes, we are on the track. So with these few words, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Any participant who has a question may press star and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Our first question is from the line of Sri Karthik from Investec. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I had a couple of questions.
Please.
The first one was with regards to e-Syndicate's Q4 numbers. As you reported in your presentation, there's a significant loss that you had taken. What sort of normalization have you assumed in that provisioning requirements and the decrease to the net worth and CET that has happened during the quarter?
During the course of amalgamation, we have followed the principle of a harmonization. In harmonization, what we did is, suppose there are two borrower accounts, one in Canara Bank, and the same person is having a facility in Syndicate Bank. If some account is under substandard category in one bank and doubtful category in another bank, we have made it doubtful, and we have made the corresponding provisioning. And when we have gone for this harmonization exercise, we are very liberal in the sense that we want to make our balance sheet very strong. So we have provided wherever and whatever is required. So that is the reason why there is a loss in the Q4 of Syndicate Bank balance sheet. However, that has been made good in the current quarter.
Understood, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, my second question is with regards to the moratorium disclosure you made. I guess in your press conference yesterday, you suggested your corporate moratorium number.
Yes.
Corporate moratorium number is lower compared to all the other segments.
Yeah.
Could you throw a little bit more color on which are the sort of corporates who have taken moratorium 2.0? Are these like really good AAA, AA corporates, or are these like very weak corporates who have taken moratorium?
See, this time what we did is to be more transparent to the public. Even we have uploaded the moratorium details with sector-wise and even account number and even amount-wise. So here, as far as corporates is concerned, if you see, about 6% in terms of number and 16+ % in terms of amount, corporates have availed the moratorium. Now you are interested to know the details of this one. Suppose under corporates, if you take about NBFCs, only about 6% of the people have availed moratorium. And regarding the AAA, AA, B, it is not that, it is a mixture of this one. And 16% of my corporate portfolio is a very small amount.
Got it, sir. And just a last clarification, you mentioned you've uploaded it on your website. It's available for all of us to see?
Yeah, it is in our internet site. It is our website.
Okay.
It is detailed presentation. Everything we have given.
Okay. Thank you.
Not account name. It is account number.
Okay. Got it.
Account name we cannot give because again. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mona Khetan from Dolat Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good morning. So firstly, on the moratorium number, just to understand what is our approach to moratorium? When we say an account is moratorium, is it based on opt-in or how are we approaching it?
Yeah. 1 minute, madam.
Madam, our approach is obviously opt-out approach. So unless a particular borrower opts out, we are considering that borrower as a part of our moratorium process. So I think other nationalized banks have also, doing this opt-out approach. So we have followed that, and we explained it last time also when we interacted.
Right. So last time, if I'm correct, it was based on, if an account has paid at least one EMI over the March to May period, it was considered to be not under moratorium. Will that approach be the same this time around as well? And will it be applicable from March to June, which is 4 months this time around?
No. As I said, unless a borrower opts out, we are considering that borrower as a part of our moratorium. So naturally here the number of installments is not important. Here the borrower who is opting out, we are just keeping him outside this purview.
Okay.
Thank you.
And secondly, on the capital front, you have reported a CET1 ratio of 8.15%. Does that include the Q1 profit as well?
Of course, ma'am.
Okay. And any thoughts on what are the plans around capital raising?
Ma'am, last time I said that just we are going to the board for raising about 8,000 crores. So subsequently we have gone to the board and we have taken permission from the board for 8,000 crores, out of which 5,000 crores will be in terms of CET, about 3,000 crores will be in terms of AT1 bond. And out of this 3,000, we said that 1,500 in Q2 will be raising and another 1,500 will be raising in Q3 of FY21. Just we are waiting for our June results to be declared so that let the market go through our results and understand the business growth as well as NPA recoveries and also the efforts put in during the COVID time. That is the reason why just we are waiting and now anytime we will be coming to the market.
Sure. And any plans on stake sale in Can Fin Homes? So any clarity there?
Ma'am, as I said, we have about 8 subsidiaries which are doing very good and they are giving me the dividends. So in Q2, I don't have any plans of disinvestment in these subsidiaries. However, in Q3 and Q4, our strategy may change depending upon the board directions at that particular point of time.
Got it. And lastly, on the recovery front, if you could just share with us what are your expectations for the full year and any large accounts that you are factoring in?
Yes, ma'am. Our guidance will be about 10,000 crores of recovery for the year as a whole, and out of which I think big accounts, as of now, I think we are not considering any big account. We are considering the other medium and small accounts for recovery.
Sure, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Deepak Agarwal from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Agrawalji, very good morning.
Yeah, very good morning, sir. So, wanted to understand your views. Yesterday, RBI came out with this circular regarding current accounts. So, how should we read it? Is it that it will go in favor of large banks and mid-sized banks will struggle in terms of a large part of that current account money going to the larger banks?
I will answer you in two parts. First, let me tell you about my bank. My balance sheet is about 15.6 trillion. So I consider my bank as a big bank.
Correct.
And a stronger bank. So for me, this particular circular, I think I will take it as it is a positive circular for me, as far as I am concerned. Now the second point is regarding the regarding the opening of current accounts. Since I think some 7-8 years, the RBI was telling that wherever a person is availing the credit facilities in some particular bank, the other bank should not open the current account, because the banks are indirectly contributing for the diversion of funds or for indiscipline in the financial matters. So some banks have implemented, some banks have strictly implemented, and some banks they are implementing, or sometimes some here and there some violations were there. And rather instead of using the word violation, I can say that some deviations are there. But with this circular, it is clearly defining and implementing a financial discipline among the borrowers and the banks also. Say suppose the circular says that 10% exposure in the consortium, if it is there, those banks will decide to have a CC account through which the amount will be routed. Others can also have the account, but only credits will be there and it will be transferred to the main account. Here, actually, there will be a clear-cut monitoring of the cash flows, which is good for the borrower and which is good for all the banks which are in consortium. So I think I welcome this move, and as far as my bank is concerned, we will be implementing it in letter and spirit.
And so do you believe, for say, obviously you are a much larger bank, so you stand to benefit because you will be more than 10% of the system level exposure of the large corporates.
Agrawalji, let me give you some information. We are having exposure in consortium less than 10% also. It's not that in all the consortiums we have more than 10%. So we will be following, even as a bigger bank, we will be implementing this. Wherever we have less than 10%, only we will be collecting the proceeds and we will be remitting to the bank which is having more than 10% as decided by the consortium meeting.
So, but say in the smaller accounts where you are less than 10%, your ability to get business from those corporates in terms of, one obviously is the CA balance and second is related to Forex and treasury and all. Does that go down for you in those accounts where you are not a dominant lender?
Business is dynamic. Today I may be having 5%. Tomorrow I will take a call to have 15%. So it is not that because today I have 5%, I will be losing the business. But my strategy going forward as a big bank, as a Canara Bank, will be to have more than 10% of exposure in each and every account.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mahrukh Arjania from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, hi.
Hi, please.
Hi. So, my question was also related to the current account thing. I did hear your response to the previous question. But so basically, there's a lot of feedback coming across from various participants. I would like to know from someone as experienced as you, sir, that basically, was it the problem that the state banks were giving a lot of cash credit, but the private banks were kind of taking away the cream of business. Was that the issue? Or was it like a general sector specific issue? Because what is coming through as feedback is that probably the state banks had big exposures to the borrowers in the form of cash credit, but the private banks were taking away the cream of the business. And even in terms of NPLs, so say an account was about to default, the private banks would actually appropriate the cash flows earlier than state banks. So was that the issue, or was it a general sector-specific issue without any segment bias like private versus state?
Yeah, Madam, good morning. Myself, M.V. Rao. So as far as this subject is concerned, just our MD also told it is more on the financial discipline, either on the borrower side or on the banker side. It's not private versus public sector banks. In that way, let us not take that. But fact remains that whatever the things you have explained that is there in the industry, it is not a good practice. And to put an end to this, lot many internal discussions were there at the IBA level, and also now time has come to implement such type of measures. It's very good for the industry as a whole.
Got it, sir. Sir, my other question is on one-time restructuring. I know it is too early, but what would be your broad policy around it? As in that, do you see a lot being restructured? Because in general, people are scared of the word restructuring, right? Because in the past, a lot of restructured loans have failed. So what is your view, and how would you view it for your own loan?
Okay, let me respond. I am D. Mukherjee, Executive Director. Now here, let me first tell you that restructuring was never a dirty word. It was made dirty by the practice, right? So restructuring exists and will continue to exist. Case in point is the one-time restructuring for MSME. We have helped more than 1 lakh of borrowers in our bank who have benefited from this one-time restructuring. So while RBI has made a very welcome move with regard to this one-time restructuring for the bigger accounts as well. Now here let me answer your question specifically. It is like this, that although it is too premature and too early, because some parameters needs to be built in, which I think KV Kamath committee is going to tell us. So leaving aside all those things also, if we look at it in that perspective, it is only those accounts because it is standard and SMA 0. Others are not eligible for this. So you see the comparatively stronger accounts are only being approached for restructuring, and they require some help. They require some push. So this is a very welcome move from RBI, from our point of view.
Got it, sir. Got it. But sir, so would you be in favor of doing a lot of retail restructuring? Corporate, I understand that all the large corporate accounts would already be restructured. Your corporate moratorium is not very high. But would you be more inclined to do a lot of retail restructuring, or how do you view your current moratorium in terms of restructuring? Do you think a lot of them would be eligible for restructuring in the retail segment?
Ma'am, this is again Prabhakar. And a bit addition to the earlier question. On our notes on accounts, we have already given the figures of restructured accounts. It is about 1.45 lakhs. Amount is about 4,400 crores. So our experience is wherever we have extended this restructuring, now those accounts are performing better. Why I'm telling is, your question is that the restructuring, yes, as you said, there is a feeling in the market that restructuring means we are postponing the NPS. But if you go through the RBI circular, wherein they said that when you do MSME one-time restructuring, they have classified into less than 1 crore, 1 crore to less than 5 crores, and 5 crores to 25 crores. And for each bucket, there are clear-cut directions that before you do the restructuring, what are the things you are supposed to see, what type of certificates you are supposed to take, and whether it will be done by an individual or a committee of the members who will be doing the restructuring. all those things. And after doing the restructuring, the parameters have to be monitored at regular intervals, all those things. So that the disciplined one-time restructuring has helped the banks as well as the MSME borrowers to really come out of the short-term trouble which they had. And if you go through the circular, this circular needs people who are not eligible for restructuring to be restructured. So there itself they are being excluded, and those accounts anyhow is becoming NPA. And whichever account is restructured with these particular parameters, and these are being checked subsequently by the auditors also. So that is why wherever the banks are doing restructuring, they are very cautious, and wherever viability and feasibility is available, only there we are doing. That's the point number one. Coming to the next question, what you have asked, madam, regarding the type of restructuring that we may do in the retail and other things. As you have seen, our moratorium portfolio is about 22% in terms of number, in terms of amount also. And if you take a cutoff date of, say, maybe 1st March, on that date, in real sense, there are not much, I can say, the number of borrowers. I cannot say it's a large number. Maybe the number is very reasonable when it comes to the eligibility of restructuring. And I think since about 78% of the people have paid back, in retail about 30% of the people have paid back. If you see my retail restructuring, 30% of the portfolio is under gestation and under moratorium, and 70% has paid back. So I think if the circular comes, it will help my bank. Whoever small portion is there unable to pay, we will extend this facility to them after complying the strict terms and conditions.
Got it, sir. Thank you. And sir, just one last question. Then in the MSME portfolio, what of the loans restructured, do you have any data on how much has slipped?
Ma'am, it has slipped. Yes, it is not that 100% restructured or in a restructured state only. But if you see this quarter, it was very insignificant. Only you will be knowing in the next quarter actual figures. And for us, we expect that it will not be significant. Because why I am telling is, our hold amount is 10,380 crores. For that, we have already made a provision of 1,038 crores. Even if I presume and assume that there will be a 25% to 30% slippages. Out of this 10,000 crores, I may be losing about 2,500 crores to 3,000 crores. For 3,000 crores, if I have to make a provision of, say, 15%, or if it is unsecured, maybe 25%, it comes to hardly about, say, 450 to 500 crores, or maybe 550 crores. Whereas I have a provision of 1,038 crores already. So, as of now, I think the bank is in a better position to handle the Q2 NPA slippages. And as I said, already this quarter I made about 1,420 crores as fresh slippages. So with the pain which I can take in the next quarter, I have already taken in the current.
Got it, sir. Sir, and in MSME, I was just asking more about MSME. That what would be your of the restructured MSME loans in the past? How many would have slipped?
Exactly those figures we have not taken, madam, but I can tell you that I can share you the figures subsequently, but it is not significant as I know of the figures. And the amount is, if you take, I have the figures, just now I got it. From 1st Jan, that is for 2 quarters, if you see, it is hardly 315 crores.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from the line of Ravi Singh from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is on the this new resolution window which RBI announced yesterday. So for that, there is a provisioning requirement of 10% on the residual credit, residual debt. But whatever is the sacrifice between existing debt and residual debt, do you have clarity? I mean, how will that have to be provided? Will it have to be immediately provided, or could that be spread over some time?
Actually, we are going through in details about this circular. It only came out yesterday. So all these things, there may be some queries also which we will shoot to RBI. So we are awaiting all these things. So our department is working on it. So it will evolve, and the details will come around. With regard to what 20% repayment and other things, that also is there. You get back 50% provisions. All those things we are working out. It is too early. We are also waiting for that KV Kamath recommendations, what they give. So in totality, we are going to study it once again and place it to our board for adoption. Then only we will come out with the correct picture.
Okay. So given that the guidelines are from the June last year notification from the RBI on the resolution framework, under that framework, was any sacrifice on the debt needed to be provided immediately, or were other options available?
No, the 7th June circular is different. That is no way related to this particular circular, what they have given. That 7th June, this is only for those affected by COVID. Only these people can avail. But that 7th June was with regard to that 2,000 crores and above, 1,500 crores and above. That is different. So there the resolution was, if you go for NCLT, you need not provide. Or if it is only filed, you can recover 50%. If it is admitted, you have to, you need not provide. If it is not filed, then you provide 20%, which will go up to 35%. So that is a different circular, totally different independent circular. That is still in vogue. That has not been scrapped by RBI.
Okay. And sir, just a last question. Based upon your understanding of borrowers in MSME, corporate and retail who are getting impacted by COVID-related impact on their income levels, do you think there could be significant gap in the sustainable debt versus the debt which they have right now? Or do you think the impact is temporary and with some rescheduling, NPV loss may not be very large?
Like I said, the situation is still evolving. It all depends on how the economy does. We are expecting, even as on today, we are expecting with the measures which the government has taken with regard to nearly all the sectors, we expect a good growth in the economy in the coming quarters. Okay, maybe not next quarter, maybe not the quarter after next, but maybe within a reasonable period of time, we expect the economy to revive. And if the economy revives, all these accounts where we have restructured or where we are thinking of restructuring, they will revive automatically. So the question of unsustainability may or may not arise. It will be sector specific, it will be borrower specific.
Okay.
Yeah, but here just as Prabhakar, I would like to add one point as far as my bank is concerned. Taking into consideration all these risks, in the last 6 months, what we did is we have made huge provisions. Now, my provision stands at 78.95%, almost 80%. And if you go through my NCLT accounts, I have made a provision of 88%. So, looking into the future, if at all, if there is going to be any adverse effect, to take care of that, in the last quarter and this quarter, we made huge provisions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Rakesh Kumar from Systematic Shares. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Rakesh, please.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. So 2 questions basically. The first question is pertaining to the RBI FSR report in which they have given the rating distribution of zero past due, SMA 0, loan accounts credit rating, where we see that around 26% of loans are either in the sub-investment grade or unrated. So, after the restructuring, what is our view that in the, say, 2 years time frame, post-restructuring, how the asset quality would look like, given this number in consideration?
You see, in this FSR, which RBI has come out, there are different scenarios. One is baseline, one is very stressed, severe stress. So, these type of scenarios, while it is good for statistical analysis, it may not differ with the reality because this is a changing environment. Nobody envisaged about this RBI guidelines which came yesterday. So when the FSR study took place. So what I feel personally is, this is Mukherjee from Canara Bank, that let us not generalize the things. It will pan out considering the measures which both RBI and government has taken or they are taking. I feel that the impact may not be that severe as the FSR points out. And if we take into account this restructuring, because this restructuring will basically try to bring out the accounts out of SMA category. That is the basic purpose of this. So naturally, this 26% SMA may not be actually which is going to happen in the next 2 years.
No, sir. These are SMA 0 in the sub-investment grade and unrated, 26% number.
No, you see, the unrated does not mean that it is a bad account. Unrated can happen because of various reasons. So, and if you kindly see the portfolio of MSME are mostly rated below BBB for various reasons. That is what we see the reality. But it doesn't mean that all the MSME accounts are bad just because they have been rated below the so-called investment grade. So that is a view which bankers need to take as to, okay, it may be BB, it may be BB minus, but the inherent strength of that particular borrower is analyzed when we also assess the credit requirements to be given to these borrowers, and we will continue to do so.
Got it, sir. Just a second question, sir. There is a additional refinance facility of around 65,000 crore what RBI has proposed through NABARD and the other financial institutions. My point here is that if you look at entire scheduled commercial bank data for May and June, there has been a decline in the MSME total number of around 23,000 crore and 45,000 crore in May and June respectively. So if the MSME loans are declining, then what is the point in giving the refinance facility to this refinance institution? So why would the bank avail at this point in time when the books are actually declining?
Yeah, let me answer this question. If you see my bank, under this emergency credit line, which is guaranteed by Government of India, we have disbursed to more than 3.8 lakh borrowers, amounting to about 6,800 crores.
Correct, sir.
That is disbursement, right?
Correct.
So just it is in a span of, say, about 4 months. So disbursements are taking place, and at the same time, as I said, people are also repaying. I don't say that in MSME all are repaying, but people are repaying and they are utilizing the credit. So for us, we are not going for any refinance from SIDBI, but there are banks which may be requiring, because my cost of funds or my deposit is only 4.95%. So my savings bank is only 2.95%. I can raise money from savings bank at less than 3%. So that option is available. People are availing it. And going down outstanding doesn't mean that disbursements are not taking place. The actual figure, you will get it when you see the disbursement figure. And disbursements are happening.
Correct. Okay, sir. Thanks. Many thanks, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Abhijit Sakre from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So, couple of clarifications on the moratorium number to start with. This is as of June end, right? And fair to assume that these many loans have not repaid us anything during the tenure of the moratorium, is it?
No, as we have already clarified to you, only 22% of our borrowers have availed of this moratorium facility. And, we have also told you that the way the measures that the government is taking and the various measures that the bank is also taking, we are sure the numbers would be reducing in the next quarter. A lot of measures have been taken by the government, and the RBI also has taken a lot of measures. So I'm sure these numbers, the repayments will be coming in. And we have told you also that our retail numbers are around 30%. And we have also clarified to you, most of my retail borrowers are all, salaried class. Now, they are also repaying, maybe a little bit of issues in the market right now, but I'm sure the monies would be coming back. And we also told you our NPA numbers are just almost like below 3%. And the growth in my retail books have also, increased. Though MSME numbers, MD has also clarified to you that we were given out so much of loans, and our loan books have also grown to about 5%. We have no issues regarding the repayment, actually.
Sorry, just to clarify this on this, ma'am. So 1,20,000 crores worth of book is not repaying as of today, right?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. The moratorium numbers, yes, exactly. Okay. But if you look at the total numbers, it's like almost like 13 lakh numbers, and we are sure that these numbers would be coming down in the next quarter.
Got it. Second question is what would be the expected aging-related provisions for the rest of the year on the current stock of NPLs?
Now, aging as on March 21, it will be normal. It is not that very extraordinary will be there, but it will be around. So I think it is manageable. We will not tell you the numbers exactly, but it is much better than last year. It will be manageable, within manageable limits. This is what we can say right now.
Okay. And the last clarification is trying to reconcile the net worth from the opening balance sheet to June end number. Looks like there is a difference of about 850 odd crores if I compare the opening balance sheet and the June end numbers. So the opening balance sheet net worth was about 51,400 crores, and June end is about 52,700 crores. The difference is 850 crores more than the net profit for the quarter. Anything that we are missing here?
There is, as you know, in every March, wherever fraud accounts are there 100% that will be taken into account, 25% will be booked to provisions, and remaining amount will be adjusted towards the net worth. So as the quarter passes, that amount will be brought back by making provision from the income. So we last time, as you can see from our notes on accounts, about 800 plus crores of provision we made for a DHFL account. So that in 3 quarters it will be coming back. Same way during the current quarter and then during the next quarter also, we will be flowing back about 800 plus crores into the equity.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Bhavik Shah from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. This is Jay here. Hi sir. Sir, just a couple of questions. First to ma'am, on moratorium. So fair to assume that this corporate moratorium loans of 38,000, they have not paid any EMI so far, or does this include people who have 1 or 2 EMIs?
You see, as we have explained earlier, that we are following the opting out method. So here, what our figures are, those people who have opted out, they are excluded from this. The others, we are assuming that they are in that fold of moratorium. So here,
Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the management line has experienced a disconnection. We are calling them back. We request you to please remain connected. Do not disconnect your lines.
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात त्यांनी तुमच्या कॉलला होल्डवर ठेवला आहे. कृपया लाईनवरच राहा. The person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. Please stay on the line. आप जिस व्यक्ति से बात कर रहे हैं उसने आपकी कॉल
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We have the line for management now connected. Mr. Bhavik Shah, if you could just suggest,
Yeah. So let us continue while I was, interrupted by this technical snag. Now, what we were saying is our formula is very simple. We have followed the opt-out method. Whosoever has opted out, we have left. Whosoever has not opted out, we have considered them as moratorium accounts. Now here let me also clarify that it is not that moratorium doesn't mean that they have stopped paying totally. Many of them are still paying. So that way, so we expect that they will continue to repay, because as our Money McLean madam was explaining, that most of our borrowers are salaried and they are employed. So that way we don't foresee much of a problem in repayment of our retail loans.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. Second thing is, sir, we have 10,000 crores of standstill loans where we have provided 10%. Now, is this understanding correct that if in the next 30 days, if you do not recover, then these accounts slip in 2Q? And these are not eligible for restructuring, right?
Yeah, these are not eligible for restructuring. That is true. But then we cannot assume that all these will slip. How can we assume that our slippage ratio more or less will be maintained?
Let me clarify a bit regarding the hold accounts. As I said, about 10,380 crores is on hold, and we made a provision of about 1,038. Normal trend is, if at all ever scenario is there may be a slippage of about 25 to 30%. That we are ready for that. Even if 30% slips, it will be about 3,000 crores. 3,000 crores for my bank, normal acceptable level, and for 3,000 crores, even if I have to make a provision of about, say, 20%. 15% normally for substandard. Even if I say some accounts may be there which are totally unsecured, where I have to make 25%. Average it comes to 20%, so it goes to 600 crores. I have a provision of 1,038. So there is no issue as far as this quarter is concerned.
Sure, sir. And just last two questions, sir. In implied, fourth quarter loss for Syndicate Bank for the CET1 reduction is around 5,700 crores, of which implied loss for Syndicate Bank is around 3,300 crores. What is the residual, let's say 2,500 crores kind of an adjustment, sir? If you broadly, if you can.
I can mail you, because these things are not kept ready. It is there. We'll mail you. It is not an issue.
Sure, sir. And last question, sir. There was recent news flow suggesting that a large Indian conglomerate is now declared as a fraud. One of the housing entity in that conglomerate has been classified as fraud. Now, they also have some of the accounts which are standard at system level, including power and power distribution. Does that spell some sort of a trouble? Because now this is a fraud case and the standard exposure that they have in terms of UNPP and power distribution business, does that come under risk in your opinion? Thank you.
I think if you see the Canara Bank, the way in which we declare the fraud, we are very prompt in declaring the fraud. Even that big account which I am telling, housing, which most of the banks have declared in Q1, whereas we declared it in Q4 of 20. So if any account is eligible or is marked as red flagged, we are going to declare it. And just I would like to submit that the exposure to these accounts is not significant compared to my balance sheet.
Correct. Sure, sir. Okay, maybe we can discuss after this call. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Anirvan Sarkar from Principal Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Hi.
Just one question for my understanding. Just wanted to know if securitization transactions could be allowed to be restructured under this.
No, restructuring under this thing, you see, for corporate, it is very clear. Only SMA 0 and standard assets. Now, normally securitization is, there are two types of securitization. One is you sell your NPA assets to ARCs. The other one is you securitize the assets, say pool buyout. That is also another type of securitization. So if it is a standard asset, even if it is bought under pool buyout, I feel personally that it can come under this, provided it fulfills the basic criteria. Although, as I said during my previous interaction, that some of the things are still not clear. We are also working on it, and all those questions will come in our mind, which we will try to discuss with RBI or IBA, and we will try to get a comprehensive reply, and then we will put up to the board for adoption. It is still pretty early on this.
Sure, sir. And also just adding on to that, I mean, based on your initial reading of it, I get it that loan pool buyouts will definitely should be allowed, provided they satisfy the criteria. But about PTCs, for example, if it's restricted only to banks, so let's say there are no mutual fund participants in a PTC, so there is no question of SEBI approval or anything. So if it's restricted only to banks, should PTCs be eligible also? That's just understanding, not just DA. But
here I will just interject here. PTCs are treasury instruments. They are not credit instruments. So I have serious doubts whether they will be allowed in this scheme of things or not. I have serious doubts.
Got it. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mahrukh Adajania from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Hi. So, I just had one regulatory clarification I required, that in terms of, again, this current account thing, was there an RBI norm earlier that you cannot open a current account without NOC? Was there any such norm of other lenders or any such thing?
Existing guidelines from RBI or instructions from RBI is, suppose if a bank is opening a current account of any company or the borrower, they have to inquire whether they are enjoying any facilities from others or not. And we used to go through the data available in the public domain. And RBI says that if someone is availing the credit facility without the consent of that bank, we cannot open a current account and collect the proceeds of that business. It is there, ma'am.
Okay. But it was not probably being strictly followed.
Yeah, it is followed because you can see on some of the banks, even RBI has imposed penalties.
Got it. Now I get it, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Sushil Choksey from Indus Equity Advisors. Please go ahead.
Sir, I had a couple of questions.
Yes, Choksey ji, good morning.
Good morning. What are our plans for Can Fin Homes?
As I said, Q2 of FY21, we want to be the stakeholders of that.
Okay. So in case of your wish list, will you do a rights issue or will you do a QIP? Because looking at asset under management and the market performance of Can Fin Homes, why won't you consider a rights issue favoring the shareholders at an attractive price, which shores up the capital and shareholders are not diluted?
We take your suggestion and let us have a discussion in our board. Then only I will be in a position to comment.
Okay. Going to equity raising for non-government shareholders in Canara Bank, why would we not consider that looking at the performance? Reward the shareholders' patience for losing value over a period of last 2-3 years, but now a time has come where we can raise equity and make it attractive, whereby at least that 24% of shareholders who are non-government holders, government holding goes below 75 and it's at a price which is attractive and shows up our capital.
Correct. Excellent suggestion, sir. Definitely we will work on that.
Okay. Now, sir, looking at NCLT, what's your estimate for current year in terms of recovery?
See, in the last quarter from NCLT, we could get only 61 crores. It is a very meager amount. Out of the total recovery, what we done is about 2,060 crores. But during the current quarter, already, I think only 1.5 months left over. I don't see any big recoveries from NCLT unless until some drastic decisions takes place. Because of that, we have concentrated on recoveries other than NCLT, especially through OTS. So NCLT, I think during the current quarter, I am not expecting much from that, except maybe 100 or 200 or 300 crores, not more than that. 300. Not more than that.
So where do you see our NIM going forward?
As I said, as on date, it is 2.84. We are planning to keep it around 2.8.
This same as what you appeared on television and said. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the fact.
Okay. Now, sir, where CASA is concerned, what would be our wish list and where do you stand today?
Yeah. See, last time, I think we met. At that time, our bank CASA was 30%. I said that going forward, by June, we'll be making 33. Then by December, 35. There is our a size of 2.5 trillion, increasing 2% or 3%. It makes a big difference. But if you see the last quarter performance, we have increased it to 33.84% from about 31%. So that itself shows that how seriously we are interested in increasing our CASA deposits. And my wish list or my guidance going forward by December, we will be touching 35%.
Okay. Where do you see your gross NPA, net NPA by the year end, and what is the growth estimate as per you in corporate book and retail book?
See, overall growth, as far as credit is concerned, it will be around 6 to 8%. And retail, yes, as we said, we have to cross 20%. That is our, and we are hopeful by March 21, our retail will be growing by 20% plus. Now coming to NPAs, net NPA, now we are at 3.95 and we see that we will be in a position to maintain the net NPA sub 4% and gross NPA around 8%.
Second thing is, where do you see, as I can understand from your retail credit, your loan growth, Syndicate Bank has not performed well on retail, whereas Canara had a reasonable share. Is that assumption right? Looking at their CASA numbers and your CASA numbers?
Now, after amalgamation, because everyone is working and
No, I understand that. So how are we benefiting or utilizing the strength of Syndicate Bank CASA, which was higher than ours, on cross-selling where housing, vehicle and education and personal loans that you have specifically specified?
So here I can say one thing. To take the advantage of this strengths in the E-Syndicate Bank and also the strengths available with us, what we did is we have started separate verticals in our bank. The main purpose is to have a focused attention, and we deployed sufficient manpower in these verticals. Say, for example, housing. It consists about 56% of my retail. So what we did is we have opened retail hubs or retail asset hubs, about 300 in number, headed by Scale 4 officers, provided with sufficient staff, and most of the branches are attached to it. That's why I'm telling that we'll be in a position to grow in retail more than 20% because of the strengths which we are already having and which we are now leveraging those strengths. And if you see our gold vertical also, for a bank of our size, it is about 58,000 crores, where there is zero risk and there is a good growth in that one. And in the south, I think now we are one of the most important players. And if you see after March, our YoY growth even in gold loans, we have grown about 10%.
What is the loan book on gold, sir? Sorry, I missed out in the presentation.
58,000 crores. 58,000.
This would be agricultural connected or standalone? This is more related to agriculture, right?
See, this is not totally agriculture connected, but agricultural farmers have also taken.
And what pricing are we giving these loans now?
We are giving it 7.65%.
Okay, second thing, yesterday RBI had some change in rules where gold lending is concerned. How much are we likely to do in LTV and what is the estimated growth now going forward on this?
They have given us permission, we can go LTV up to 90%. But there is a catch in that one.
Interest.
LTV is available up to 31st March 2021. So by that time again I have to bring down the LTV to 75%. So my strategy in lending will be in such a way that the people who are going to close the accounts before 31st March 2021, there I will be giving an LTV of 90%, and for others it will continue 75%.
Okay, sir. Second thing, smaller questions, more is your outlook on your trading book and outstanding on Jandan, and what kind of losses are you estimating on Jandan?
Jandan, we don't expect any loss, and we are not experiencing any loss. See, Jandan accounts, we have about 1.35 crore accounts, wherein we have about 5,500 crores of deposits in that. So it is a profit-making business for me.
And the loan disbursement which we have done to the weaker section in the government scheme, what kind of book is outstanding and what kind of loans are under NPA in that?
See, as I said, if you go to retail, my NPA is only 2.2%. And if you take book as a whole, domestic, it is 8.18%, and internationally it is 8.84%. So it is very well under control.
Okay. And second thing, I asked you in the last quarter result also, the digital initiative and the spend you had spelled out. Are we ahead of the reality, because that's the way of future where digital is concerned? And how are we focusing on southern states where you have a larger market share, as per my understanding and strength, to grow our bank on a higher scale than where we are today?
Two things I would like to submit to you. One thing is, if you just go through my interaction the last quarter, whatever I said, in all the parameters, we have performed better than what I have said. Maybe in terms of operating profit, maybe in terms of profit, maybe in terms of growth in liability products, or maybe in terms of credit products also. And even in terms of controlling NPS also, whatever I have given the guidance, the performance was better than that. That's one thing. Regarding digital, now we have given lot of emphasis, not only in giving digital, but also for the accounts which are existing. In those cases also, we are concentrating, and I think going forward, maybe by December, you may see that Canara Bank is one of the best digitalized bank.
So second thing, you hired a new CEO called Deven Sangoi, who is an excellent person with a capital markets known name. What's the plan on Canara Robeco?
Yeah, see, Canara Robeco, it is doing very well, you see, quarter on quarter. So it is a continuous process that the CEOs will be engaging, and after the tenure, again, new CEOs will be engaging. But this subsidiary is doing really good for me.
Any highlights there?
Because this is not that forum, I may share afterwards. Huh?
Oh,
thanks.
Thanks a lot and all the best. Second thing, only on trading book, you didn't give me any guidance.
Trading book, see, yeah, 1 minute. Huh?
Investment income.
Yeah.
Yeah, trading book is, we are having very small, amount is very small here, around 100 plus crores.
No, I'm not talking about equity, I'm talking about the treasury book business.
Treasury book only I'm trading, for trading. This thing is very small amount, very...
What's your outlook for the year on the trading gains? That's what I meant. Looking at the current quarter, where do you see the year for the next 3 quarters? That is the current quarter and the following 2 quarters.
Sir, what we can say is, see, as of now, the yields are very attractive, and our treasury is well-managed treasury. So we are taking into consideration the future risk that may arise. Accordingly, we are investing and we are placing the funds. So going forward, I think we will not see any hit. Rather, we will be in a position to make some gains from the treasury.
So would you consider equity first or tier 1 bonds first or perpetual bonds first?
Sir, immediately we are coming, maybe since we are waiting for the Q1 results, now the Q1 results are out. We are very soon we are coming out with 81 bonds which are Basel III compliant.
What size, sir?
1,500 crores.
Okay. Thanks a lot and all the best to the management.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Ashok Ajmera from Ajcon Global. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity, though I got it after an hour.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
First of all, in fact, I wanted to congratulate Prabhakar Saab and the entire team, Mr. Mukherjee Rao and Mani Maklai Madam, for fantastic performance of the bank and completing the amalgamation also so fast and giving the full clarity about both the banks. Sir, after having said that, a lot of questions have already been covered. Only a few I would like to have some clarification. That after this 25 crore limit increase to 50 crore means from 5 crore to 10 crore of this emergency loan, what is the differentiation figure, which you could have got covered more now? So from the original eligible amount of the borrowers, like in one of the answer you said that you have disbursed about 6,800 crore under this emergency loan for MSME.
And so, we are one of the highest. I can say I am next to State Bank of India.
Yes. That is what I observed. So, did it make any major difference by increasing this limit?
Yes, sir. We will be having about, increasing the numbers, not much, about 270 actually. And with regard to the, where they've relaxed to individuals also, it will be around 15,000 numbers, sir.
Okay. So, not much.
Not a very significant numbers increase.
And sir, now coming again to that question of yesterday's RBI's this restructuring plan, which is details are going to come still. what they said is that those accounts which were less than 30 days overdue, means SMA 0 is on 1st March 2020, they will be eligible. But by the time this process starts, and you know that August 31st deadline of moratorium gets over, and the September comes. So even those who are eligible, if they do not pay up to the, say, 1st of October, so will they still be considered for this restructuring, or since it will be 60 days of their or 90 days of their non-payment, they will not be considered by the time you complete the sanction process, restructuring process.
Here, whatever I could gather from that circular is, number one, these accounts will have to continue as standard assets. That is number one. And during till the time that the consortium or the banks decide on having that resolution plan. After that, they may slip, but when the plan is finalized and implemented, they will come back to their original status, that is standard. That is what it is as of today. But they will have to be continuing as a standard assets in the books till it is decided by the consortium or the bank that yes, this is the resolution plan what we are going to adopt. They can slip thereafter, which will be they will again be brought back to the original status.
Okay, so it means that the deadline is up to 31st of December for restructuring and implementation up to 31st of March 2021.
Yes. So yes. No, that is the maximum timeline. 90 days implementation maximum timeline is 31st of March, which will expire thereafter, and application and decision is actually 31st of December.
So again, coming back to that only, so if suppose somebody was already in default for 29 days up to 1st March, and again he does not pay up to the 1st of October, so that will not be considered as a standard under the scheme, even though the sanction procedure might get completed by 15th of November or 30th November, these accounts will not be eligible, isn't it?
Yes, because they have to maintain their standard stature. That stature needs to be maintained.
Which will be difficult because
that is why if you recall my earlier response, I said this time restructuring will not be a random restructuring. It will be a structured restructuring where only the strong players will only be restructured. So it will be a proper restructuring. Somebody asked me this question earlier.
Yes. Okay. And sir, from the bank point of view, even if they would have slipped in NPA, you would have provided at the first instance only 15%. So now also you are in any case supposed to provide up to 10%. So
yeah, that is to avoid cliff effect. So that suddenly you need not provide this 15%. So you gradually build up. That is what is the strategy always of RBI, and that is a good strategy.
All right, sir. Point taken well. Sir, now coming to some specific data points and some clarifications. Your overseas advances, sir, have declined by 6,300, almost about 20% or so. So was it a particular some few accounts or nature of accounts, or is it a strategic, a view which has been taken to reduce the overseas advances exposure? Because from 32,716 crore, it came down to 26,402 crore.
Yes. No, one is based on the economy, the market. You know that world over the pandemic is there. So the demand is like that. It is not that consciously we wanted to reduce our overseas exposure. We are open with any good projects we have been taking in the overseas sector also. Because of the pandemic situation providing across the world, there is a slow growth. That is the specific reason.
Okay. All right. Sir, some color on the NBFC exposure, sir. TLTRO 1 and 2, how much have you utilized, availed for your bank and distributed? And what is the overall, can you give some color on your total NBFC exposures and TLTRO 1 and 2 numbers?
So, as right now, I don't have the number of TLTRO 1 and 2, but all that I can say is that we have fully utilized the 1 and 2. I have now, I can tell you, It's about 1,200 crores totally. That has been fully utilized.
Approximate amount, or I'm not asking a number of accounts, but the total amount.
So total amount, that's what I think, around 1,200 crores.
Okay, not much. Especially in TLTRO 2, where you're given to BBB plus or A minus NBFCs?
Negligible, not much.
Negligible.
Yeah.
Madam,
no, we have of course complied with the RBI guideline. The percentages what they wanted, that has been complied.
And Madam, this about this moratorium, do you have the ready numbers of out of these 6 installments? I mean, now so far I think 4 installments. Amount wise, that how much have paid 4, 3, 2, 1 or 0 to 1? Do you have any such breakup of the?
We can come back to you with those numbers, sir. Right now we are not having those numbers. We can mail those numbers to you, sir.
Sure. Okay. My email address, I will send it to you.
Yeah, please.
I think I
please.
have the number. And sir, now coming back, sir, to, of course, restructuring now has come, so that will reduce the pain as far as the NPA is concerned. But what are your views when you are interacting with your customers and this thing, that after this 31st of August, and especially I am talking about the interest on the working capital loans, working capital facilities, which was for which the moratorium was given, and suddenly from September onward, they have to not only service their monthly interest, but also this backlog, which they have to complete before 31st March 2021. So there will be double whammy on them. So how do you look at it? I mean, whether some of these small businesses, MSME, will be in a position to take that burden, or do you think that this moratorium also may get extended by another 3 months or so?
I will answer your question in 2-3 parts. Number one.
Yes, sir.
Number one is, as per our interaction with the borrowers, we feel that this moratorium or this FITL, will be created, this interest, it has actually given them benefit on one hand. At the same time, those people whose business are running, those people whose cash flows are coming, they are even paying back those interest as well as our installments, right? So it is not that the total amount is outstanding and they will have to pay it and they are waiting for 1st of September to arrive and then they will start paying. It is not like that. Many of them have already started paying. Many of them are using their cash credit and working capital accounts in a proper way. So yes, that impact may be there, but at the same time, many of them have enjoyed, because this was the lean period where business was not happening. The basic purpose of RBI to bring in these guidelines is to give them some break, give them some breather, which they have now got. And again, if the economy does not revive, everything will fall flat. So that is the basic question which we have to live with. If the economy does not revive, nothing is going to happen. But with some reasonable assumption of economy coming back to normalcy over a period of say 6 months or 9 months, we can expect that these people who have enjoyed this moratorium as well as FITL, they are in effect benefited, because immediate strain on them is not there. They will pay, and it is not that everybody will have to pay on 31st of March. They can pay as and when they can. So that flexibility is there. Now, as regards to
Please continue, sir.
Yes. As regards to the other part of the question is, I feel that even this present restructuring scheme, which has now come since yesterday, personal opinion is that moratorium may not be extended. moratorium may not be extended, but then it's a debatable point because they have brought in this restructuring. Why they will extend the moratorium? So I feel it is not going to happen that way.
No, sir. The restructuring is only for the purpose of loans. Now some of this like working capital pressure and other thing, I don't think this will be also under the purview of restructuring because the interest amount of 6 months also will be huge. Whether that will also be allowed to be restructured as a one time and probably the corporate may not avail that kind of small one time facility of restructuring. So anyway,
during the COVID relief scheme of RBI, there was a good scheme for working capital lenders also, working capital borrowers also, wherein we could extend their cycle, we could give them more drawing power. All those things were there. Margins could be reduced. So all those things these borrowers have already enjoyed. And this restructuring for corporates, it does not exclude working capital. It has not been specifically mentioned in this circular, although it is too premature to assume anything. But they have not excluded working capital. So we can always have a holistic approach when we do the restructuring for corporates.
Oh, that's great. I mean, if that comes and that
Ms. Ajmera, sorry to interrupt. Maybe request you to return to the queue, please. Due to time constraint, we'll have to just move.
You see, another speaker before me spoke for about 9 minutes. And I have not even consumed 4 minutes. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was the last question. I would now hand over the floor back to Mr. Sohail Halai for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I really like to thank Sir Prabhakar and the entire management team of Canara Bank for detailed explanation and giving us this opportunity to host the earnings call. Sir, any concluding remarks that you would like to add at the end?
Really, I'm very happy to interact with the analyst and the well-wishers of our bank. And we also, after interaction, we could get many insights. I think we'll be taking all those things in our future strategies. And next quarter results, again, we'll be meeting. And if required, I think we'll have one more, interactive call some other time. But really, thanks a lot to all the participants.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Antique Stock Broking, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.